Today's episode is about a milestone moment for women's health in Australia. We're talking about the historic $574.3 million investment in menopause and reproductive health. This announcement really does feel like a turning point, one that acknowledges the gaps in care, the challenges women have faced for decades, and the need for change across so many levels. Joining us to talk about this today, I'm very pleased to welcome Senator Marielle Smith. Senator, I've heard you say when you get public policy right, you can change lives for the better. And it certainly feels like for us, this is an absolute new era that we're coming into.
Absolutely, Shelley. And this is the thing I'm most passionate about and why I'm in public life, because public policy is an amazing tool. If you get it right, if it's well researched, well consulted, it actually delivers on what people want and need. It's transformational when you use the levers of government to make an impact. But also when it goes wrong, it can really affect people in the most personal ways in their lives. And this announcement's a really good one, responding to a lot of effort, and I know it's going to be really impactful.
Look, this was a huge effort on your part. And as you say, you have been championing this for so long. Um, You're young, you're fresh, you're in politics. Women's health obviously has been an issue for you for so long. Was there something in your history or in your mother's history that made you so strong about this, or is it just being a woman in the noughties? We got to get this right.
Yeah, look, I think my interest in women's health, like so many people, is from a personal story. So when I first had my son, I remember, you know, felt really well informed, really well researched on everything leading up to childbirth. And I knew that would really, really hurt, but I sort of thought after childbirth, things would get better and it would be okay after that. And breastfeeding hit me for six. I just felt so unprepared. I didn't have any of the knowledge I needed to really thrive in that time. It was a really difficult time for me, for my mental health, and for my family. And when you look at women's health, you don't have to dig very deep to find so many instances like that where women haven't had good quality information, where a stigma has stopped a discussion of an issue, where they're struggling and they haven't got support or they haven't felt listened to. And as a policymaker and as a legislator, I suppose I've tried to look at my personal experience where the gap has been and then extend that to all women and look at, well, where else are women being let down in their healthcare journey? And the sad thing is, across the board, from puberty to menopause and beyond, there are just too many examples of where women have felt like they're not heard, like their pain has been minimised, like they've been sometimes just outright dismissed. And we need to turn that around, and government has a role in that.
I feel like it really is this sort of coming of voice. I know that my grandmother and my mother, they were very stoic. They keep things to themselves. It's all very personal and private. I feel like we're a generation that is allowing those conversations to happen. We don't really have the beauty of those women's circles anymore for this information and knowledge and those blatantly sometimes grotesque conversations that you would have with your girlfriends. Perhaps we just haven't been having those. And to hear you stand up for all of us, and of course government get behind this and go, we now hear you. As long as you keep talking, we can keep making changes. So thank you for bringing it to the fore, but also to all the women, as you said, that you've spoken to, that were comfortable enough to share those stories, to have made changes for all of us, really is, I think, the start of something quite special and quite incredible. And it's great to see it happening here in Australia.
Absolutely. And it's testament to the idea that when women raise their voices, they're powerful. And when we raise our voices and insist on being heard, we will be, and we can create change. And we don't have to accept that there's a stigma around our health. We can challenge that and demand better quality care, better quality support, and public policy changes, which will help us, which will change our lives and change our daughters' lives and our mothers' lives.
That's it. Take us back to the moment when this, $5 million plus investment was announced.
$500 million investment, extraordinary.
Sorry, 500 million. That's right. It's a
I
lot of
know
numbers.
it's always big numbers when you're talking federal government, and this is a really, really big number. But look, it had come off the back of a lot of work over many years by many people. But I was actually in the Senate chamber with Senator Katie Gallagher, our Minister for Women, when she sat me down and told me the exact number, the exact things we'd managed to get in the package, because of course it's got to go through the Prime Minister and the Expenditure Review Committee, and you've got to get the money. And anyway, we were sitting in the Senate chamber, all the things were going on, voting bells, people yelling at each other. And when Katie told me, I just cried right there on the floor of the floor of the Senate, because I think for me it was this sense of relief. I mean, so many people entrusted us with this process. They shared their personal stories, they shared their personal pain and moments of embarrassment or discomfort, or really difficult parts of their lives or parts of their families' lives. People talk to us about the impact on their sex life, the impact on their hormones, their impact on their work. And I just, you know, you just want to be able to honour that
Mhm.
with change, which means something to people. So, yeah, when I first heard about it, it was an extraordinary moment. And on Sunday, when we were able to announce it, I'm not sure if you're in this space on social media like I am. My algorithms are all very much geared around women's health and menopause, but the whole community was just ecstatic because it's the end of a long journey, or a key step in a long journey,
Mhm.
which is going to be really influential and significant for people.
Imagine this: unlocking your genetic blueprint with insights from over 200 healthy aging genes, pinpointing your unique SNPs and potential red flags, understanding what your body needs to thrive and where it may need some extra support. No more guesswork, no more random supplements, one off blood tests, or one size fits all advice. For the first time in history, we have access to the power of genetic testing, something no generation before us has had. This information could change everything. Join our free DNA webinar and you'll get our Stay Well scorecard jam packed with the markers that we want you to track every year, starting now. Friends, know your genes, own your health. Let's learn to thrive together. Visit theagingproject.com to register, and I'll see you there. Going to make huge changes to so many. Can you break down where this money is going to be allocated and really what sort of gaps are going to be filled?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few key measures all around women's health more broadly, with some specific measures for menopause. So big change which is coming into effect right away is, for the first time in more than 20 years, we're listing menopause hormone therapies on the PBS. So these are a number of therapies which haven't been on the PBS, and this is going to save women hundreds of dollars a year who are using them. Of course, a lot has changed in menopause treatment in 20 years, so it's about time these therapies were more affordable for women, and that should have an impact as well on the broader supply challenges we're seeing too. In terms of the contraceptive pill, another win. So we've got the pills Yaz and Yasmin, which many of your listeners would be familiar with. They're a more modern pill, and for lots of women, they're a safe and effective and better pill for them. It's what I've used for 20 years. Those pills are now on the PBS as well, so that will save women hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year too. So those sort of medicines, that's a big change. But we also know that women, when they go to see their doctor, wanted two things: a conversation which was a bit more supportive. They wanted to not have to shop around for a GP, because while we know we've got lots of really, really great women's health GP specialists, not every GP was able to provide them the good quality information and support they needed when it came to menopause. And three, that when they got that appointment, they often felt like there wasn't enough time to really go through their symptoms and get the advice, ask the questions, go through any concerns that they might have. So we're funding a longer consult with your GP during this time of life to get help specifically for perimenopause and menopause. In addition to that, I'm not sure if you know, Shelley, about the endometriosis and pelvic pain clinics, which are now around Australia, which have been really transformational for women with endo in particular. We're going to roll out 11 more of those, but importantly, they'll be expanded in their remit to include menopause care. So if you need extra specialist help and advice, you'll be able to go to one of these clinics and know you're absolutely going to a fantastic place to get good quality information. I feel like I need to take a breath, but
I'm glad the list goes on. I'm very glad this
the
list
list
goes
goes
on.
on. There's also a public information campaign around menopause, because we know that women, they told us that often they didn't really feel empowered with information when they went to see their doctor. And we can talk a bit more about this, but the impact on women when they felt like they didn't have good quality information actually had an impact on them in their doctor's office, and it had an
Mm.
impact on them in the workplace. So we'll see a public information campaign. And then when it comes to long-acting reversible contraceptives like the Implanon or an IUD, there's a lot more funding to lower the costs of those and to provide training for GPs and nurse practitioners to be able to insert them and remove them, because we've got very low uptake of those long-acting contraceptives in Australia. It would be good to see them more affordable and accessible for women.
Right. Now, look, I'm going to tell you, as I'm sure you're very aware, politics is not my forte. How long do these measures sort of take to put in place? Can some of these be affected immediately, or are we having to wait now months or years before these policies actually come into play and the changes we see them at the on the cold front?
Yeah, absolutely. So the changes to the pharmaceutical benefits scheme, which is where those medicines will be coming on and coming cheaper, that will be happening from March. So that's happening right away. Things like building the new endometriosis and menopause clinics, that will take a bit of time. So that's sort of towards the end of the year and beyond. But really good news is that all sides of politics have now since come out and supported the Labor government's announcement, which means we'll get to see these things happening after the election, and we've got support for that. So I feel confident that, once we get through this part of the year, which is coming up, the election season, then we'll start to see these things roll out.
It is very exciting. So we can be guaranteed that this will continue on. And of course, we're going to expand on this more and more. As voices, as women, what else can we do to support you and the government in making these changes? Is it really just about speaking out where we can, or is there forums that some women might like to join? Is there areas that we can contribute to this a little bit more?
Absolutely. I think we just need to keep having the conversation and keep having it loudly and in public. I mean, when we started the Senate inquiry that I was a part of, what we wanted to do was get this great big spotlight we have in the Senate, shine it on an issue, and make sure we were demanding a public conversation and bring a whole range of women's voices along with us. It's really important that that conversation keeps happening and keeps happening loudly. We need to keep that pressure on, and we need to make sure that in our workplaces, especially, we're talking about these issues, we're breaking down that stigma, because there's still a long way to go to make sure that every woman gets the flexibility, the support she needs if she has troubling symptoms at this time of life. And also, Shelley, I mean, when my daughter grows up, I want her to be shocked that there was ever a stigma around these things, shocked that we wouldn't
100%.
have talked about them, shocked that there was an issue with access to affordable treatments or good quality care. So, I mean, that's always my measure of success in what I do for work. So we've just got to keep that pressure up and keep that conversation going.
A quick pause in today's episode to share some of my must-try products at youmusttryit.com. Through the Aging Project, I've learned managing stress is something to be intentional about, which is why over at youmusttryit.com, we've created a stress and sleep page with all of our favourite products. After today's episode, go check out the Shakti mat. This is an acupressure mat with over 6,000 spikes. Yes, I swear by it, as do so many of our customers. Even previous guest, Dr. Peter Wright from the Vera Wellness Clinic, said, I love this mat, Shelley. Thank you. It is my pleasure, Dr. Peter. To grab yours, just go to youmusttryit.com and type Shakti. That's Shakti. You'll also find essential oils, supplements, and organic teas, all designed to reduce stress and aid sleep. Trust me, all are a must try. Just go to youmusttryit.com for a 10% discount off your first order and to join our community. Senator, obviously this change affects young girls from their first cycle right through to menopause and beyond. So many women are going to be affected by this, but you have had, I guess, the opportunity to hear some really personal stories along this journey. Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, absolutely, Shelley. I mean, over the course of the Senate inquiry, we heard from hundreds of women who shared their personal stories and their personal experience. And some of those stories included women questioning whether they had dementia, or questioning whether they had a mental health issue because they were dealing with some of the symptoms of menopause but weren't understanding that that's what it might be, and then not getting good quality advice. We heard from women who were going through cancer treatment, and menopause was a result of that. And they told us stories of their doctor basically skimming over that or making jokes or making light of it, when that ended up being a really difficult part of their cancer journey. So for so many women, we heard stories which we hear across the board in women's health, where they feel like their pain or their experience is minimized or it's dismissed. They feel like they haven't been heard. Through the Senate inquiry, they shared these stories. We listened to them, and then we took these stories to government. And that's really a huge part of what has driven this change. And I think, it can be really hard to engage with these processes. Government is a big thing. It can seem like an abstract thing. A Senate inquiry can seem like a very intimidating thing. But the women who participated in it have actually changed the course of history. This is a historic investment and a historic change to the way women's health is funded and treated in Australia. And I just want to commend their bravery and commend them for being part of the policy making process, because it can be used as a tool to do fundamentally great things. That's what public policy and government should be all about. And by being part of it, these women have been part of this change.
It'll be so amazing to see these things roll out over time, and with a $574 million investment, it seems rude to ask for more. But what happens next, Senator?
It's a really good question, Shelley. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not really sure, but I have really high ambition when it comes to women's health and the way we continue to address these historic issues which have existed, the inequities which exist in women's health. And there is still so much more to do, as there is across our healthcare system, because nothing is more important to the way you feel, your well-being, your health. It affects everything from your family life, your relationship with your children, your ability to go to work and earn a living. It affects your ability to study, to take that next promotion, to exercise, all these things. Your health is such a big part of that. And for women experiencing perimenopause and menopause, this is women in the absolute prime of their lives. This is when women are kicking the most goals in their career. It's when women are juggling just so much and doing an absolutely kick-ass job of it. But we need to make sure that if they've got symptoms weighing them down, they're getting good quality support so they can go out there and be the formidable women they are. And I don't want a single woman to feel like she has to turn down an opportunity, miss out on something important to her, or God forbid, step out of the workforce or anything like that because of her symptoms, when we know good quality care, support, and an open conversation can be so impactful.
Yeah, making menopause sexy might be a bit of a mission, but we're all on it, aren't we? We are here for it. We're here for
Hey,
the
we do our best.
conversation. Yeah, that's right. Well, again, thank you. I know this funding marks a significant step forward, and it's probably given all of us a lot more courage, I guess, to talk up about it, because we know we are now being heard. Thank you so much for your continued advocacy and making those policy changes. It really is so important, as you say, to be having those conversations. Here at the Aging Project, we're all about taking charge of our own health. But the more information, the more knowledge, and the more support we do that, the more confident we do feel asking our GPs more questions. Even to have that little bit more time in the room is going to make a huge difference to so many of us. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything we do. We'll be watching this space, and we'll be so hot right now for so long to come.
Thanks so much, Shelley. And just a huge shout out to every woman who was a part of this process, to our Assistant Minister, Jed Carney, Katie Gallagher. There were so many women who drove this change. But, we can feel comfortable and happy and like it's a great achievement that the government's listened. $500 million is a lot of money. These measures are going to make an impact, and they wouldn't have happened if we didn't join together and raise our voices. So I think it's incredible. This is what public policy is all about.
Do we say, hear, hear, Senator?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Here.